Report: China's labor force has an average age of nearly 40 years. CCP hits the wall in 2023 diplomacy. Experts say the situation of encirclement has emerged. 60% British firms in China say this year is harder. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Report: China's labor force has an average age of nearly 40 years. On December 9, 2023, the 15th International Human Capital Seminar and the 2023 China Human Capital Report Conference were held at the Central University of Finance and Economics. The China Human Capital Report 2023 was published at the conference. The report indicates that from 1985 to 2021, the average age of China's working population has been on an upward trend. Specifically, the average age of the working population rose from 32.25 years in 1985 to 39.42 years in 2021. In rural areas, it increased from 31.99 years in 1985 to 39.82 years in 2021. In urban areas, it went up from 33.03 years in 1985 to 39.16 years in 2021. In 2021, the average age of the male labor force in rural areas was 40.39 years, having already surpassed 40. Among the provinces, Heilongjiang, Liaoning, Jilin, Chongqing, and Zhejiang all had an average total working population age of over 40 years. The oldest average ages were in the three northeastern provinces, ranking as the top three in China: Heilongjiang at 41.17 years, Liaoning at 40.78 years, and Jilin at 40.57 years. The provinces with the youngest average ages were Hainan, Xinjiang, Guangdong, Guizhou, and Tibet. The report also shows that from 1985 to 2021, the proportion of the population aged 0 to 15 years as a percentage of the non-retired population in China decreased from 39% to 23%, while the proportion of the population aged 45 to retirement age increased from 10% to 24%. Regarding the continual aging of China's working population, Li Haizhen, the head of the China Human Capital Measurement Project and a distinguished professor at the Central University of Finance and Economics, told Itsai that labor force aging will to some extent affect innovation and production efficiency, thereby impacting economic and social development. In China, the working population is defined as females aged 16 to 55 and males aged 16 to 60, excluding students. The retirement age for women is 55, and for men, it is 60. CCP hits the wall in 2023 diplomacy. Experts say the situation of encirclement has emerged. As 2023 approaches its end, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has faced multiple diplomatic setbacks, including issues related to the Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and human rights abuses. Experts suggest that without significant changes in Beijing's approach, there is little hope for improvement next year. The CCP fears Western countries de-risking. One major diplomatic setback for the CCP in 2023 has been the de-risking measures taken by Western countries to reduce economic ties with China. This concept, introduced by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in March 2023, aims to reduce Europe's dependency on China for critical raw materials and products and counter China's economic coercion. Following this, countries like Germany, France, and the USA have adopted similar strategies. Although not a complete decoupling, these measures focus on limiting China's influence, particularly in high-tech and strategic areas, to prevent potential threats, especially in military and AI sectors. This has led to worsening Sino-European relations. Xing Qinma, director of the Department of Diplomacy and International Relations at Tamkang University, told the Epoch Times, the concept of risk mitigation has become the consistent approach and attitude of democratic countries towards the CCP and has become a world master. The so-called de-risking means that although there is no complete isolation, the so-called partial blockade is implemented on the CCP in strategic and high-tech fields to prevent the CCP from harming the world. The world, especially the military field, industry, and artificial intelligence field. Therefore, it can be said that China-EU relations is getting worse. In recent months, the U.S. has also emphasized de-risking to reduce dependence on China, focusing on supply chains and technology, without fully decoupling. Under these policies, China has experienced a foreign investment deficit for the first time, with a deficit of $11.8 billion in direct investment liabilities in the third quarter of 2023. The CCP's economic coercion fails. In recent years, countries and regions that have faced economic coercion from the CCP include Lithuania, Japan, Australia, Taiwan, and others. However, the CCP's economic coercion tactics have proven unsuccessful. On December 5, Lithuanian Foreign Minister Landsbergis stated that Beijing has terminated trade sanctions against Lithuania. In 2021, Lithuania, one of the 3 Baltic states in Eastern Europe, established a representative office under the name Taiwan, inviting retaliation from the CCP. China threatened to punish Lithuania economically on the grounds of the name change, resulting in millions of euros in losses in trade with China. However, Lithuania did not make any concessions and received support from Western countries, successfully opening up new markets. Encirclement remarked, "This certainly lets the world see that the CCP uses its economy as a weapon to suppress relatively weaker countries. This exposes the true face of the CCP to the world." He stated that Lithuania is not the only one affecting Sino-European relations. The EU has also proposed sanctions against the Chinese Communist Party for human rights violations in Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Tibet. Europe and the United States condemn CCP's human rights suppression. Throughout this year, Europe and the United States have consistently publicly criticized the CCP's human rights suppression. December 10 is International Human Rights Day. The EU delegation to China issued a statement reiterating concerns about China's severe human rights situation, listing various human rights violations by the Chinese Communist Party and condemning the CCP for deliberate, systematic infringement of civil and political rights. On December 8, the United States, ahead of Human Rights Day last Sunday, announced sanctions against 2 CCP officials and 3 Chinese companies involved in human rights abuses in Xinjiang and 3 Chinese companies, including COFCO Sugar. On July 20, the U.S. Congressional Executive Commission on China condemned the CCP's most horrific human rights abuses in an official tweet, urging the unconditional release of all detained Falun Gong practitioners. Encirclement said, "The CCP has always been repressive and persecutory towards freedom and human rights, including the persecution of Falun Gong and the shameful act of live organ harvesting. This part, I think, has awakened more and more people in the world." He mentioned that advanced countries like the United States, Europe, Japan, and South Korea understand the evil nature of the CCP and its oppression of human rights. CCP listed in the axis of evil. China's stance in global conflicts has also drawn criticism. China has not condemned Russia's aggression in the Ukraine war and has maintained close ties with Russia. The U.S. has sanctioned Chinese entities and individuals for supporting Russia. In the Israel-Hamas conflict, China did not condemn Hamas but criticized Israel, leading to suspicions about China's support for terrorist organizations. Most of Hamas's weapon supply comes from Iran, and Hamas also claims to receive support from a mysterious major power. Encirclement said, "People naturally suspect the involvement of the CCP. Various pieces of evidence point to the CCP because Iran's technology primarily comes from the CCP." Encirclement also mentioned another terrorist organization, the Taliban in Afghanistan, which is gaining increasing bilateral ties with the CCP. On September 13, a new Chinese ambassador appointed by the CCP presented credentials to become the first country to establish diplomatic relations with the Taliban. Global preparedness against CCP provocations in the Taiwan Strait. Throughout the year, the CCP has been provocatively engaging with Taiwan. In response to China's increasing threats to Taiwan, the international community, particularly the U.S., has heightened its focus on the Taiwan Strait crisis. The U.S. has warned about China's capability to attack Taiwan by 2027, and Taiwan and the U.S. have signed a $17.2 billion arms deal. Japan and South Korea have also shown support for Taiwan, recognizing the interconnected security of East Asia and Taiwan. On October 30th, the United States and South Korea conducted a large-scale air exercise, deploying 130 fighter jets to simulate 24-hour wartime operations. Encirclement said, Taiwan's entire security system is closely connected with Northeast Asia. If the CCP attacks Taiwan, it's basically difficult for Japan to stay out of it, especially considering the close involvement of the United States and Japan in the region. Formation of the Indo-Pacific Anti-CCP Arc. In the Indo-Pacific region, China's aggressive expansion has led to conflicts with the Philippines and other countries. The U.S. and its allies, including the Philippines and Australia, have intensified joint military exercises to counter China's influence. The Indo-Pacific Anti-China Alliance is strengthening, and unless there are significant changes in the CCP's policies or a change in governance, this trend is unlikely to change. On November 3, over 1,800 naval marines and personnel from various countries, including the Philippines and the U.S., conducted the 7th Maritime Warrior Cooperation Exercise in strategic locations in the South China Sea. Encirclement said, the formation of this military organization by the US, the UK, and Australia basically aims to prevent the CCP's military expansion in the South Pacific after the Cold War. Recently, the US has conducted joint military exercises with the Philippines and Vietnam, as well as military cooperation. Of course, this is to prevent the CCP from causing trouble in the South China Sea. I believe this situation will continue to strengthen, and the free world's containment of the CCP has essentially taken shape. 60% British firms in China say this year is harder. Despite China lifting all COVID restrictions since late last year, many challenges and uncertainties persist, contributing to the negative evaluation of British companies in China. According to a December 12 survey by the British Chamber of Commerce in China, 60% of British firms find doing business in China harder this year, causing many to delay their investments. Among these businesses, 78% attribute the increased difficulty to economic factors. While the pessimism level dropped to 29%, compared to last year's record high of 42% during Beijing's strict lockdowns under the zero-COVID policy, UK businesses remain hesitant about the business prospects in China, foreseeing a slow return in optimism. The survey identifies China's existing economic conditions, persistent global challenges, and growing concerns over geopolitical tensions as contributors to an uncertain business environment, impacting the confidence of small and medium-sized British businesses. Many companies hesitate to increase investment in China, with the largest proportion continuing a wait-and-see approach by maintaining current investment levels for the coming year. Throughout this year, foreign investors have been disheartened by China due to factors such as a weaker-than-expected post-pandemic recovery, office raids by Chinese authorities, reduced investment incentives from cash-strapped local governments, and higher investment yields in the United States. British firms are downgrading the significance of the world's second-largest economy in their global operations, with consideration of China as a high investment priority dropping to 31% in 2022. It increased slightly to 40% in 2023 but remains lower than the 59% recorded in 2021. British businesses cited economic uncertainty in China as the primary reason, 72%, for reducing their investment. Geopolitical tensions ranked as the second factor at 53%, followed by global economic challenges, which ranked third at 38%. According to the British National Bureau of Statistics, trade between the United Kingdom and China was worth $140 billion last year, making China the UK's fourth-largest trading partner. De-risking China. The European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, Eurocham, in its China's Business Confidence Survey 2023 report, also highlights the worsening business environment in the country. The report found that 64% of respondents said doing business in China became harder last year. The report also noted a trend: de-risk China. Investments begin to shift out of China as de-risking strategies emerge. The two top reasons for European Union businesses to shift or consider moving out of China include minimizing China's decoupling impact and increasing the resilience of their supply chains. This trend shows that investors intend to de-risk and build resilience, rather than for purely business reasons. Jens Eskelund, president of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, said, "The negative trends we see in this year's survey are concerning and reflect both recent challenges, brought by uncertainties in China's policy environment and rising geopolitical tensions, and the persistence of long-standing market access barriers." Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.